I have a really nice stack of layouts here for February of 2026. I'm pleased with what all I got done. I participated in the Creative Memories virtual crop and I got a total of 6 layouts made just from that alone. I also got a few layouts made from scraps only. So let's go take a look. The first 2 layouts that I'm putting in this video were actually finished in January. But I did not include them in the January layout share because their videos had not been posted yet. They were scraps only videos, and this is the first one of those. I made it using the custom border template and I created these large flat hexagon shapes. And I used 6 pieces of scraps, and I really like how this turned out. This layout was very monochromatic, but I'm looking forward to making it again with a variety of color in it. This layout was also made just using scraps, and it has a video to go with it. I used 1-inch strips from my stash of scraps, and it is also a sketch from the Creative Memories blog. And in the video, I include the link to the blog for this sketch. And I also pulled out an old embellishment cluster that I had pre-made a long time ago that had this little stormtrooper on it. And I just knew when I was making this page, which was a page for May the 4th, a la Star Wars Day, that I had to use this embellishment. It is made with the Nutcracker border punch from Creative Memories. And when you punch it in black and white, you get a little stormtrooper, and I think it's just so adorable. This layout is one of the pages that I made using scraps only, and I also used a technique with the inking and terrible rulers and place and peel tape. I have a video showing how I did all of that, and I really like how this layout turned out because in my scraps only challenge, I can only use refill pages or the back page of an index sheet that comes in a Creative Memories collection pack. I was quite monochromatic with the grays and the blacks here, but the subject of the photos were also gray, and so I think it worked out quite well. This layout was one that I made for the Galentine's YouTube Hop, and it was about, of course, friends who have been with us and supported us, and I loved making this layout. I used the custom border tool to make this wavy border, and then this is the wavy scallop border maker cartridge by Creative Memories. I pulled the paper from a paper pad and from my 100 pattern papers. This top layer paper was some that I received in a gift bag from a crop, and it is part of my 100 pattern paper challenge for this year. This layout was a ton of fun to make. I pulled papers from paper pads and I made this matted border and rounded the corners. I used the teardrop lattice border punch and the whimsical scallop border punch, as well as the custom border template. And I just put a variety of embellishments of chipboard on here. I had some chipboard I wanted to get used, and it just seemed to work so well. I was surprised at how well it worked on this page. And I use an L design as my general overall design for this page. This layout was a base page that I made at a retreat last fall, but at the time I did not have photos for it. I was really thrilled when I got home and was able to find photos, and I was inspired by the baby blankets. I felt the colors just went well with the layout papers, and I also made this little heart with squares. These are 1-inch squares, and some of them you cut into triangles. And I used, I think, 5 of each type, 5 of this one and 5 of that one. And it just was a perfect embellishment to go along with this photo. Beth over at Saving the Photos has a video showing how to make this layout, and I will have a link in the description to her video as well as in the card above. This is a simple layout that I made using the custom border templates. I pulled papers from my 100 pattern paper pile as well as from a paper pad. And these photos come from an album project that just has a few more layouts before I can complete that album. And so I told myself, get that done. And it's just pictures of the famous UK red telephone booth. I'm just 1 or 2 layouts away from closing that book and calling it complete, and that makes me happy. This layout was from the Next Big Thing YouTube Hop video. I'll have a link to it in the description. The Next Big Thing YouTube Hop is about scrapbooking photos that are larger than 4x6. And here I have a 5x7 layout. In the video, I show how I take those journal spots that are 6x6 that come in some of those paper pads. I use those 6x6 blocks to give a layered look to the layout, but I covered up the words. I also used 3 layers of border punches from Creative Memories. The 3 I used were the whale tail border punch, the scallop bubbles border punch, and the snow-capped mountains border punch. The anchor and the compass were Creative Memories punches, and the ticket and the cruise ship were some dies in my collection, as well as the words Bon Voyage. This layout was one that I was so happy to finally complete. It was a base page that was in my collection because I made it for a Creative Memories virtual crop challenge, but I had no photos for it. If you watched my photo sorting videos, I pulled this out thinking I would use other photos on it and had set those photos and this base page aside to go together. But as I continued sorting the photos, I decided that I liked these much better on the page than the ones I had chosen previously. And so I exercised my right to change my mind, and I'm very happy. I am happy that these photos look great on this base page. I'm happy to have that base page completed. And I'm also thrilled with how it looks. I think it's a lovely page. One of the challenges, at least for me, is that when I make a base page, I'm trying to guess at what photos I might want to put on it. And my guess was pretty good because I knew I had some aquarium type photos coming up. And so that's why I chose this. This paper is from Beach Scenes by Creative Memories. But I was thinking, because I had a photo of a hammerhead shark, and there's one right here in this paper, that's what I wanted to put on here. But there's other sea life. There's dolphins and regular fish and seahorses and just uh, coral. And so I also made this diamond shape base for the title. And I did that using a Creative Memories custom cutting system, diamond shape. I think it comes in the set called Jewels. It has two hearts and the diamond. And the seashell and the coral are dies. Coming up next are the layouts that I made for the February 2026 Creative Memories Virtual Crop Challenge. And if you're not familiar with that challenge, it comes out every month on the second Friday of each month. They post a set of 4 sketches. They post 2 single-page layouts and 2 double-page layouts. And you're challenged to make a layout using those as inspiration. And it sort of needs to be obvious that you used it for inspiration. And you upload your layout using the hashtag that they have provided for each sketch. And then you are entered in drawing to win prizes. I've been participating in this for several years now, and I do enjoy it, but I have noticed a big difference this year. And all of my layouts for the month of February went off the rails. This was sketch number 1, and I adopted some, but not all, of what that sketch contained. And I ended up making this zigzag. It had this sort of a heart design in it, and I just had no photos that would work with a heart design. I used the dotted diamond border maker cartridge to make this border at the top and the bottom. Now, one thing I'm seeing about these virtual crop sketches for February is that I was not thrilled with them, and I haven't decorated any of them. They don't have journaling, they don't have embellishments on them. And I didn't realize that until I started making this layout share video. So what I intend to do is go back and add some embellishments to these layouts. I have to admit, I was a bit frustrated this month, and I just wanted to get those layouts done so I could move on. So now that I'm looking at them again, I see that they need some embellishments, and I'm going to, before I put them in their albums, give them a little more decoration before I'm putting them in their albums. I'm putting this aside for a moment, and I'm going to bring over sketch number 2. Now, this was the second sketch, but as I was going through my photos, I came across these pictures, and I said I could make them work for sketch 1 and sketch 2. So I put them together to be a 2-page layout, meaning I used some of the same papers and similar colors on both sides. And as I said before, these do need a little more dressing up. So I was just frustrated when I did the virtual crop this month, and was happy to just get those sketches completed to move on to more enjoyable projects. So I'll dress these up before they go into their album. I made this layout from the Creative Memories February Virtual Crop sketch number 3. And whereas I had joined sketch 1 and 2 and combined it to make a 2-page layout, in sketch number 3, I split it up and made 2 separate layouts from the left and the right. Now, this was the right side sketch, and I made it using the Creative Memories Sunbeam Frame Border Punch. That border punch came in secret box number 1 for 2026. And it seems that Creative Memories will be putting frame punches in each of the secret boxes of the year. Last year, they put a Border Maker cartridge in each of the secret boxes. The secret boxes are a mystery box, fun package that you get. You don't know what's in it until it arrives. And we all are to open the secret box on one of the virtual crop nights and see what's inside, and then have fun using what we have. And so this was in the secret box number 1. And this was the left-hand side. And here is what I did with the right-hand sketch. These will go on 2 different pages in the same album at least. But I really liked this design. It worked well for my photos, but I wanted different papers. Because of my photos, the deep sea green and the island waters colored papers worked best for these photos. But the Kelly greens worked better for these photos. And so I used what worked for me. I split up the sketch, but I made both pages, and I'm pleased with the results. This layout was virtual crop sketch number 4, left-hand side. On the 4th sketch, I also broke it apart and made each side an individual layout that would go in 2 completely different albums. This used papers from Welcome Baby Blue. Now, this layout has a lot going on. It's kind of busy, but it's actually way simpler than it appears. It consists of 2 main pieces: an 11 by 11-inch square. I cut it on the diagonal, and then I took those 2 triangles and I cut each of them in half on the diagonal again. So this is the front and the back of the same sheet of paper. So I took, of my 4 triangles, I turned over 2. And so the face upside I put here and here, and the face downside I put here and here, and put it back together as a square. And that was the base. I put it on plain white cardstock. And then the second piece is to cut a ring, and of course keep the inner circle that you cut out of the rings. I did not use the Jumbo Custom Cutting Circle because I wanted to play around with the other Creative Memories circle cutter. I think that I would have been better off had I used the custom cutting circle, but I was able to make this turn out just fine. So with the outer circle, you just make a ring by cutting the outside of the jumbo circle and then cutting the inside, and then you have this circle. Now this circle is the back side of that. So I basically used 2 sheets of pattern paper, one that I made squares and made triangles, and then the second sheet of paper, I made the circle and the ring. This piece of paper was the opposite side of that piece of paper, and I just nestled it back on in there. And then I put 2 sheets of paper. So this was the left side, and here comes the right side. So this layout is really very simple. You just have a strip right here, and then you have a strip here. Now, I think there is a little difference. I think this was an 11 by 11 inch square, and this is 11.5 inches all the way around. I made this work for my photos, but once again, as I look at all of these virtual crop sketches, I see that I need to give them a little more decoration before I put them into their albums. This layout is one of my favorites. I cannot wait to make this again. It has a video. It's called Extra Large Chevrons, and there's a link to it in the description below. And it's really very simple. I cut 2 chevrons on the left and 2 chevrons on the right. And I actually flipped over the paper. This paper is the back side of this. And then I have a darker paper underneath. I made this border using the Scalloped Hearts Border Maker cartridge, but I used the scallop blade in my 12-inch trimmer to cut this top. And I added just a couple of diagonal embellishment clusters. I took some of the hearts that punched out of this border right here, and I used them to decorate the embellishment clusters. This layout was one of my Fantastic Border series, and it has a video. I used the Hummingbird and Flowers Border Punch by Creative Memories to make this bottom border. And here I made a 5-layer border. I used the Geometric Frame Border Punch, the custom border templates here, and the Circle Chain Border Maker cartridge. And I used the Wave Decorative Blade in my 12-inch trimmer just to give this edge a little bit of interest. For me, this was a major step in getting rid of my monochromatic fever. I was inspired by the colors in the pictures, and I put several colors from the pictures, including the orange and yellows and greens and purples in here. And I'm really pleased with how it turned out. This 2-page layout was one that I made to restart my Unclad Project Recipe series. I'll have a link to that video in the description. Okay. For this layout, I used the Sunrise Scallop border on the left and the right. This really is a very simple design. It has a narrow band on the left and on the right, on the outside, and then it has a wider band on both sides next to that. I didn't like the two together without something covering the seam, so I used the Sunrise Scallop Border Maker cartridge to make some borders for each side. In my Unclad Project Recipe series, I take the recipe and I remove the photos that they have on it, and I just make the page base and add my own photos to it. I really enjoy making those project recipes because the base page designs are really very pretty. And more times than not, they are simple to moderate. There are very few that are difficult to make. I made this layout at a class. We used the Creative Memories large ovals, and we cut 2 ovals, a base, and then the foreground for the pumpkins. And then the class lead brought in some dies for us to make a cluster of leaves, and they had the pumpkin chain border maker cartridge, and that's how we made this lower chain down here. I also want to point out that this new date punch is brand new from Creative Memories, and I just love it. It gives me a home to put the date on all of the children's layouts now because they grow so fast. I wanted to be able to put some context in these photos for someday when they grow up and say, when was this? Now, when I first came home with this layout, I really didn't know what I would do. So when these photos came to me, I was like, oh, I believe I could make that work, and I was really happy that I did. The other technique, though, that we used on here was the smooshing technique. So we took the inks and we used a balled up piece of plastic and we just dabbed inks in a few colors around our page up here and down here. Now, up here got covered up a lot by these die cuts, which I don't mind. There's a little bit of color showing here and here. But it was a lot of fun to make. This layout was a lot of fun to make. I used the custom border templates, and I was playing around with trying to use the templates on an angle and get the curves showing it at an angle. And I was really happy with it, and I used the whale tail border punch. I really like how this worked out, and I'm looking forward to making it again. I will say that I may rotate it the next time and use some vertical photos, but I thought this was great when you have 2, maybe even 3 horizontal photos. So I'll have the link to the video making this layout in the description. And before I made that layout, I actually made this one first. So when I was making this one, there were a few bugs, and that's why the video is of the previous layout, not this one. But I like it just as much. I also use the whale tail border punch here, but as you see, it doesn't have that dark frame that the other one had. And that was because I cut the paper in the wrong direction. So that was a lesson learned, but I was grateful I was able to salvage the layout anyway and get my photos onto a layout. That's what really counts. And this is the final layout for the month. This was made with scraps only, and there is a video for it. It was very simple. I just took strips of paper and made a frame around the pages. And I made these large triangle corners, and I used the whimsical scallop border to just put a little interest right here. All of this was done just on a refill page, so it has a white background. I have to admit, I am liking these white background layouts, and I hope to be making more of them in the future someday. Please let me know if any of these layouts have inspired you. Also, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and in a few seconds, YouTube is going to pop up with a video that it thinks you will like to watch next, so I hope that you will. Have a fine, scrappy day.